Can watch with the man himself, the star and the gentleman who joins us this morning, Mr. Bruce Campbell. You also know Bruce from the Evil Dead series, Bubba Hotep, Escape from L.A. My name is Bruce, and in the not-too-distant future, Army of Darkness 2. For info on how to attend the Q&A with Bruce, hosted by our buddy Spike O'Neill, and then enjoy Army of Darkness on the huge Cinerama screen and a bunch of other movies we're going to tell you about, go to BobRivers.com. Bruce Campbell, welcome to 95.7 KJR. Sir, how you doing?
Thank you. Good morning to one and all.
And you're in Portland. You're working our way up here through the fog. It's going to be very exciting. I know. I don't even know if there are tickets available. I know people are really clamoring to get in here and be a part of this on the 25th with you.
I kind of hope that there are tickets, but I kind of hope that there are not. It's one of those horrible situations.
Well, if there are any, they'll be gone by today. So make sure you log on to Bob
Let's hope, because I would actually love to see that ridiculous movie on a big screen. You know, Sam Raimi has a very large imagination, and if you're going to watch that movie, and funny thing is, I think this will be the first time for a lot of people seeing it actually on a big screen.
Well, the Cinerama's the biggest. It was one of those old style, I forgot what they call it, CinemaScope screens or something. And Paul Allen has totally redone that theater.
Okay. I'm looking. I may actually stay and watch this piece of crap.
Well, I was going to say, you know, it's been more than 20 years since you put Army of Darkness out. How many times have you actually sat down and watched it?
I watch my movies like once every 9 years. You watch it, you go, oh wow, who's that guy? You know, and it brings a lot of memories back. It's been a while, probably 5 years or so since I've seen it.
And they did mention Army of Darkness 2 is going to be coming. I'm sure we're talking a little bit bigger budget for this one, right?
Well, I think you're talking hogwash. It's I think that's internet baloney.
That's not.
So
somebody said I was doing an interview, I think, in Nashville on stage, and somebody kept bugging me, and I was like, okay, look, yeah, okay, we'll do it. All right, we'll do it. I did it just to stop the conversation, I think.
So no.
But Sam Raimi, though, he did say, and he claims he's told multiple people that he was writing Army of Darkness 2 this summer with his brother Ivan. So he hasn't always threatened that. Like, you know, he's threatened a lot of things, but when he actually starts writing, that's when you go, okay, maybe he's not lying this time.
So what you're saying is not that Army of Darkness 2 is going to be made, but you're also not saying that it's not going to be made.
I'm saying it's not going to be.
Okay.
Well, that cleared it up.
Well, we'll put out a press release on that one as soon as we hang up.
Yeah, and
there's never been better rumors than now.
Yeah, you can quote me on that.
Okay.
Bruce, you're such a renaissance man, and you've done so much since these movies, Army of Darkness and Evil Dead. Back when you were shooting these films, could you have even imagined that they would still be relevant and lusted over the way they are so many years later?
No, because we never thought they would ever get finished. So that the first Evil Dead took 4 years. We shot, stopped, filmed a year later, filmed 2 more weeks, half a year later, 3 more weeks, and stop motion for 3 months. It was a movie that was never going to get finished or ever going to be released. So it was a slow, horrifying process. It wasn't really until Army of Darkness came out that we had like real financing and a real plan for like distributing it. And even then, it still bombed. So it was kind of the series is really a weird series in my memory, and as far as which ones were successful and not.
Well, you guys have actually survived the evolution of the industry, because back then you had to get financial backing, you had to get theatrical release. Nowadays, with the evolution of the medium, you guys can do whatever you want and get it to your fans with a click of a button.
It is easier, and I have to say, the modern day filmmaker basically has zero excuse to be able to get something made. You can go to Kmart and get an HD camera for probably $600 now. You can get a tower with 18 gigabytes for $500, editing software. Basically for like about $3,000, you can get whatever you need to shoot, edit, and finish a movie.
So what the hell's Raimi's problem? What's he waiting for?
Well, what are filmmakers' problems? You don't even have to leave your own crappy little town now, because in Decatur, Illinois, you can make your movie burn it to a thumb drive, take the thumb drive, they'll put it in the digital projector in the theater, because almost every theater now has a digital projector. So
Yeah.
thank God, and nobody's lugging those big cans of film anymore. It was the first Evil Dead was a completely, literally a handmade movie where you're winding reels and the film is breaking and snapping, and it was a really slow, old-fashioned process. I'm glad to have done it, and now I'm glad to have never, ever have to do it that way again.
Well, it's like your first date. You don't want to go
It
through that
was,
again.
pretty much. It was only later that you realized what a lousy date the first date was. You thought it was a good date, but it was your first date. You didn't know the difference.
Hey, when you started making movies, you were literally a kid with an 8mm camera, right?
Yeah, that's what kept us busy starting about, I don't know, 7th grade. Sam Raimi was doing little movies it was all about neighborhoods. In his neighborhood in junior high, and I was in my little neighborhood doing stop motion stuff, and then another guy, Scott Spiegel, was in his neighborhood. And then in high school, we all basically met, ran into each other, realized that, so-and-so had a screening room, somebody else had equipment. I had access to a bunch of costumes because I had the key to a local theater company, and they had a great costume collection, which we raided, constantly. So we sort of joined forces, and instead of, sniffing cocaine and starting bar fights, we were doing little Super 8 movies on weekends and getting hot chicks to be in them. And we wound up it was an industry. It'd be fun to really catalog those one day, because some of them have real classic moments. We did I'd say about 50 different little short Super 8 movies of all different genres. And it certainly laid the groundwork for us trying to figure out if we wanted to do this for real or not.
Have any of those storylines ever been kind of, I don't want to say, revisited?
A few of them should be. Unfortunately, one is too much like a Columbine episode. There was a story of a very funny comedy of a student driven insane, and he gets revenge on all the bullies at school and all of his lousy teachers, and it was really a great little movie. But now you pretty much probably wouldn't do it,
Right.
But there are others where a certain sequence in our little Super 8 movie worked better than something we tried to do years later in an actual feature. Sometimes it's just how it works.
We're talking to Bruce Campbell. If you've got a question for Bruce, you can text it into us at 52309. One text messenger says something that I have to agree with. He says, Bubba Hotep was a classic film, and I'm wondering, Bruce, does the Presley family get any money from Bubba Hotep? When you use Elvis in the way you guys used him, the royalties go to the King's family?
I think, honestly, I was not involved in the money situation of the movie, but I would say that in this type of situation, you're dealing with kind of a parody. So it's really more of a, I don't know. I think it's not a biopic. He's just a character in a movie. But honestly, I don't know. Part of me, though, wishes that I hope his family has seen it. I hope there are people in his family that have actually watched the movie, because, we tried to portray him as a well-rounded, if not misunderstood character who had a lot of regrets. Oh, yeah, and he's fighting a mummy,
Yeah. That's what made it a classic.
It was the weirdest script I had ever read at the time. And I called Don Coscarelli, who I knew from the Phantasm movies. Don he's kind of a compatriot of ours. He's like, he got started the same way, making low-budget horror movies, owning them and doing it all very handmade. And I called him up. I said, Don, this is a story about a guy named Elvis Presley who's 68 in an East Texas rest home with cancer on his penis. He goes, right. I'm like, are you going to see the penis? He goes, no. He goes, no. I went, then I'm in. Because it was just a matter of where do you cross that line? The opening paragraph in the movie is enough to make half the people just stop watching it. You just got to get past the first couple minutes of the first movie, because you have to get used to the premise. It's a very ridiculous premise by the great Joe Lansdale. And, Joe is noodling another one right now.
Awesome.
I will give you that little taste.
I know you're going to have to go soon, Bruce, but somebody does want to know, of all the characters you've done, TV, movies, everybody, who would you say was your favorite person to portray on the screen?
That's better when I'm dead, then they can debate that. But for me, there's always your top five. I just finished up with a top five right now. The Sam Axe character from Burn Notice was pretty much a hand-tailored role for me, and I was able to really enjoy it for 7 years. I don't enjoy anything for 7 years.
That was a great show. That was a really great show.
And I enjoyed that. The Ash character, obviously a top 5. And then weirdo ones. I think Bubba Hotep would have been a top 5 somewhere in there. And then, stupid TV roles. This dumb show that ran for one season, Jack of All Trades. He was the world's first spy. It was like Bob Hope in 1801. Well, what's not to like about that?
You've done a little bit of all.
So it's been fun. I did one French film, so at least I can say I did a French film. So as an actor, you just try and do a bunch of different stuff.
And
stay tuned for future things.
Plenty more to come. And tomorrow night, Bruce Campbell will be at the Cinerama with Spike. We'll put all the info at BobRivers.com. We sure appreciate your time, Bruce. And drive or fly safe up here from Portland, because it's going to be very foggy from now till the time you get here.
I will be very careful, and I enjoyed our chat, and I hope people show up, because it's going to be a rollicking time.
Oh, yes.
This movie is meant to be seen with a crowd, especially people that are familiar with the movie. I think they'll really enjoy it. And to see it big, I think is going to be extra special. Then the comedy will be epic.
I've seen a movie a dozen times. You're right. It never occurred to me that I'd never seen it in a good theater, a big theater.
No, and the funny thing is, when you see it in a big theater, you'll actually think it's not a low-budget movie. You'll go, oh, wow, that's kind of cool.
And just to be sure that we have the right information, there's going to be a rollicking time, not a lollygagging time, right?
It'll be rollicking. Lollygagging is before and after.
I see.
That's what I do.
Now we're all set.
Yes.
That's his thing on Twitter. If you follow Bruce Campbell, you see a lot of lollygagging.
Yes, it's mandatory, by the way.
As are you.
Bruce Campbell, thank you, sir. We'll see you in Seattle tomorrow night, and also there's lots of other movies we're going to tell you about here. Have a great trip up here, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Bruce.
Incidentally, the other movies that they're showing over the week, not to be missed.